Hey everyone, welcome back. I am Rob, and we have finally made it. We are in 2019. We have reached my 50th favorite film in my first 50 years of life. When I started this 10 weeks ago, I didn't realize um, how fast it would go and how much it would catch on and how many different movies there have been. And even in the more recent years where I thought, you know what, it's going to die down, movies have stayed pretty strong. 2019, not so great. I think there's some decent films here, but I think there was a lot of overrated films. I started thinking about it and going through the list. Movies like Bombshell. Lithgow did fine. I thought, Margot Robbie was too acty for me. I thought, what's her name? I can't even think of it off the top of my head, but I just thought it was too busy. I did think Charlize did a great job as Megyn Kelly. I used to watch Megyn Kelly when she was on Fox, and it's one of those situations where you kind of feel like you did when we talked about Herb Brooks and Kurt Russell, where I could see Charlize, but at the same time I could see Megyn Kelly. And so to me, that is a really good, strong performance when you're able to do that. And I thought, she did a good job. I didn't love the movie. It was just bleh. Parts of it were good, but it just okay. Yesterday, Blinded by the Light. It was about promoting music. It was just, they weren't original. It was just okay. It just promoted the Beatles music and Springsteen's music. They were blah to me. One that I have not seen, but I do have in my queue is Jojo Rabbit. A lot of people speak highly of it. Looking forward to seeing that. Another one that I don't own that I've seen, Godzilla King of Monsters. Actually kind of surprised by enjoying that movie a little bit. I do like the Godzilla series. I don't love it, but I do like it. I'm talking about the 1954 original, or the original kind of corny Godzilla versus King Kong type thing, which is what they're making now for the next release of this Godzilla King Kong thing. But I did enjoy it. Ken Watanabe is just, quietly does his thing, and he's very consistent, very good. And whenever you have that kind of actor and in a story that you like, it makes it easy to enjoy a movie. Another one I don't own, it just hasn't been released yet, Six Underground, Ryan Reynolds, Ben Hardy from Bohemian Rhapsody. Good movie, good action adventure thriller movie, and the way they film it, where it goes backwards then forward, it's exciting, it's good. I will buy that when it comes out. And it's interesting because the Netflix films, the rights of those are owned by Criterion for the Blu-ray release, which is interesting to me because Blu-ray is notoriously, or Criterion is notoriously for restoring old film. Well, you don't restore old film when they're just released off Netflix. That just becomes, Criterion just kind of becomes the distributor for these newer Netflix films. So they're going to be a little bit more expensive, $17.99 plus tax when they are on sale. But Six Underground is probably one I will get, as well as this one whenever it makes it, The Irishman. This is my SAG viewer version. And I actually watched it on Netflix, but it's a 3 hour plus movie, kind of the last hurrah with Scorsese in this group, with De Niro and Pesci and Al Pacino. And I really thought it was a good movie. It wasn't as great as some of the past, Casino or especially Goodfellas, but I definitely thought it was up there. And I thought Pacino's performance as Jimmy Hoffa was spot on. I just thought it was really, really, really well done. When you have 3 hours, sit down and check it out. Another one I haven't purchased yet, I got it as a viewer, Joker. And I think I'm kind of holding this out for this one for 4K, because the 4K, even though I don't have a player for it yet, I'm sure eventually I will get a player. But it was filmed in 4K, so by all accounts, the 4K version is the best it's going to look. The Blu-ray version is good, and since 4K comes with Blu-ray, I can have that and be able to watch it until I upgrade eventually. but I think I'm going to hold out till the price drops on the 4K to get this. But a decent movie. Didn't love it. Didn't thought it was a tad overrated. It's kind of Taxi Driver-ish, but I did think Joaquin did a great job as his own Joker. And I showed the class a couple weeks ago an interview where he talks about a lot of that was spontaneous. They didn't rehearse it. They didn't talk about it. They just went in and filmed it and let Joaquin kind of do what he needed to do. And it kind of makes for a interesting performance. Well-deserved Oscar, in my opinion. So I'm sure this is one everybody's seen, but right now all I have is the SAG viewer. All right, so a few that I do own on the Blu-ray. I'll start with Knives Out. My friends, you got to get Knives Out. We got to watch Knives Out. And they log into my Vudu account sometimes and watch some of the movies I upload because they come with digital codes. And so, one night we were hanging out and all of a sudden one Venmos me $2.99 and then the other one Venmos me $2.01. So they give me $5 off because it was $12.99. And I think, so they contributed to their version of it. But yeah, I thought it was a good movie. I thought Daniel Craig did fine. I don't know why they had him do the accent. It was unnecessary. I also thought that Don Johnson was spot on in it. And I thought the girl who was the lead did a really nice job carrying the film. I really did. I thought she had a nice performance. And then it's funny because there's actors in it that I am not really a big fan of, but they weren't terrible. They were pretty good, and they all kind of held their own. And Christopher Plummer is the old guy, legendary classic actor, was terrific. And it kind of gave a Clue-esque feel to it, but then it also had a feel to some other type movies, in my opinion. And I've talked about this before. I enjoy movies that are filmed in one location. Right, and this movie is pretty much in the house. I mean, there are some times where they're outside of the house, but the base is the location. So it becomes a lot more about conversation and interaction. And I thought they did a really good job in telling the story and in hiding the story, but yet giving it away in their own way. And it's one that I will revisit a couple more times because I think there's things in it that I would like to see that I may have missed. But it was a pleasant surprise and worth it when your buddies chip in $5. All right, next up, the last of the Star Wars films, Rise of Skywalker. It was pretty good. It was much better than The Last Jedi, in my opinion. But I think that they were really grasping by bringing the Emperor back and then bringing Lando. I think they missed it. Lando should have came back in Last Jedi and should have been the gambler they were looking for, not that fictitious Benicio del Toro role. I just think that they missed it on that. But they did, bringing Lando back. And I think the hard part for these films for me is, other than Rey, it's really hard to grasp onto these other characters. And I think I talked about that when we talked about one of the other ones. But, the character of Poe is just there. The character of Finn, it's almost like they created storylines to have these guys have storylines. Whereas Rey really is the meat and potatoes of these new movies. And she is, at this point, a really strong actress. Adam Driver, he's okay. Like I said, I like the idea of Kylo Ren. I like the idea more of Kylo Ren with the mask on. It kind of takes away his darkness when he takes the mask off. It would have been nice for him to keep it on. But I have a lot of respect for Adam Driver. First of all, former Marine, right? Thank you for your service. I have a lot of respect for our military. And also, how he's built his career, and he does a really good job for what he does. Is he one of my favorites? No. Do I dislike him? No. He's fine. And he does a good job as Kylo Ren, and their relationship is pretty strong. But Daisy Ridley as Rey is really where it's at. Do I love, people ask me this, and this is going to be spoilers, so right now, if you want to mute me or whatever, I'm going to spoil it because you've had time to watch it. Do I love the fact that she is the daughter or the granddaughter of the Emperor? It's too many holes in that story for me. It would have made more sense if she was maybe, Luke's daughter or Leia's and Han's daughter, or some kind of story where it connects to the Skywalker thing. And I get why they did it and how she took on that name. The same way Rose in Titanic takes on Dawson as her name. Rey's taking on Skywalker for that new identity because that's her true family. I get it. But it was an excuse to bring Ian McDiarmid back as the Emperor, who just does a phenomenal job. And I've heard stories about him and people talk about him, and he is really just that guy. He's not friendly. He's not approachable. He's perfect for the Emperor. So having him back was fine. It was a good movie. I would say it's a B plus, but definitely one of the better ones for 2019. All right, my runner-up for 2019, Spider-Man: Far From Home. I think Tom Holland does a great job, and I think that they've done a really good job with this reboot of Spider-Man. I think they finally figured it out. I thought the first one was great. We talked about it. I think this one is really good as well. I think Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio does a phenomenal job in that kind of twist. And once again, one villain, one story. Stay focused. Like I said, it doesn't need all these sub-stories. It doesn't need all these sub-characters. It doesn't need all of that stuff. It just needs a direct, boom, here's your story, here's your villain, deal with it. And what's cool is that I don't even really know if it's classified as a villain. It is, but it isn't. And I think it just makes for a really good story tying in a Spider-Man villain in Mysterio that hasn't been tied into any of the films before. And I think they were smart to do that. It would have been easy to pick a typical one, right? So, yeah, I think it's a really, really good film. And I think the series, the first two, have been terrific. And I hope they continue on with that path and not lose sight and go rogue like some of these other movies. But it's my runner-up because in 2019, I got to go Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Saw it in the theaters, walked out, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, not in a bad way, just, right? So then my father-in-law is like, oh, I wanted to go see that. I'm like, I'm going with you because I got to see it again. Right? And the reason I got to go see it again is, what the fuck did I just watch? Went back, so much more enjoyable. And not that it wasn't enjoyable the first time. It was just easier to sit back and let it play out and then understand what I was watching. And then from the standpoint of the fictitious ending, similar to Inglourious Bastards, once you step back and go, typical Tarantino fashion, you appreciate and you almost wish that it ended the way it did rather than the way it really did. And you start to realize there's no way in a Tarantino movie, the way he does movies, that you can show those murders. There's just too many people connected to it, and so I think he did the right thing. And I know people were disappointed. I had friends that were disappointed with that ending. But I think that the way he did it was right. And by the time I got the Blu-ray and I was able to watch it again, it's just a great movie. And to me, Brad Pitt is the star of the movie. He is terrific. He does such a great job. It's really enjoyable to watch. I mean, there's times where you can just close your eyes and listen to him, and you can hear the way he speaks in Moneyball. I mean, he's really gotten to the point of understanding Brad Pitt. Leo does a great job. The supporting cast does a great job. Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. I just talked about in Bombshell, didn't love her as Sharon Tate. She did a good job of bringing that to life. And that scene in the movie theater where she's watching herself and it's really Sharon Tate, and then they flash back to her, you feel like it's one and the same. Tarantino knows how to make a film. He knows how to tie that stuff together. The actors do a great job. It was a really good, enjoyable movie. And then just if you look at the artwork and how it's just so connected to that period of time, it's super cool. Hopefully all of you have seen it. If you have not, it's a must watch, and it's probably a must watch 2 or 3 times to really, really get a hold of it. So there's my movies for 2019. Not as big as previous years, but still some decent movies, especially toward the end. On the music side, I'm going to go real quick. I'm going to start with my first and only live album of all these 50 years, even though there's other live albums that I really like and I like better. I went with studios throughout, but I wanted to point this out because this is Halloween. This is their United Alive, and basically this is the reunion tour. What they did was they brought back one of their guitars. So they have the main Halloween of their band now. And they brought back, you know, what happens when you have a band, the same with actors, same with relationships, everything else. You're going to eventually have disagreements. You're going to have creative differences. You're going to have those situations. Well, what happens to a lot of bands is it causes breakups. It causes people to leave. Now, I don't have a problem with that because it ends up creating sub bands. It creates solo projects. It creates other things, which helps me expand this awesome catalog of music that I own. But when they were able to bring back Kai Hansen, one of the original guitar players, to be in here, they started coming up with the idea, well, why don't we bring back Michael Kiske to sing with us as well? Well, Michael Kiske didn't want to do that until Michael Weikath calls him and says, look, what have I done or what did I do that is so bad that you can't forgive me? And Michael Kiske goes, huh, you're right. I actually think I've already forgiven you. Yeah, let's give this a go. And you got 2 singers plus Kai Hansen, who sang on their first album. So you have 3 singers. You have 3 guitar players. So you have all of this. And they mix and match the vocals and the guitar playing and the solos. And it's just so grand and so big that they ended up doing a single as a group called Pumpkins United. And now they're doing an album. So now Halloween is this giant band now with 2 singers and 3 guitar players. And this was their, you know, United Alive reunion tour, if you will, with this big group of people. And you can see all the different members that are a part of it. And it's kind of neat. Unfortunately, the one weekend they were here with this tour, I happened to be on one of my football trips and I had to miss it. So I'm hoping they come back. I'm hoping I get to see it. It's super cool. And it just kind of feels reinvigorated. It's just so cool. I love it. 2 other ones I want to show you real quick, and then I'll show you my number 1. Spirits of Fire and A New Revenge. Both sung by Tim Ripper Owens, who we talked about several times. He's the guy they made the movie Rockstar about, who was the cover band singer for Judas Priest, got the Judas Priest gig, went on to sing with Iced Earth, now does solo work. He is a part of both of these bands. Spirits of Fire, really good. Chris Caffrey of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Sabotage, some solo stuff we've talked about is on guitars here. Really cool. New Revenge, more rock and roll, hard rock style, kind of has more of an upbeat feel to it. The Way is the big hit off of this, which is just phenomenal. Never Let You Go is another really good tune off of this. So these are really 2 they're solo projects, but also like their debuts. I know Spirits of Fire is working on some new material now, and I'm sure New Revenge will put something out, but I wanted to point out those as well. But my number 1 for 2019, and I actually brought out the special limited edition vinyl, is Overkill, Wings of War. I know I talk about records all the time, even though I'm showing you my CDs. I wanted to break out this. I don't buy vinyl that much anymore, but this was limited to 500 copies, and so I become a sucker for those kinds of things. Super cool cover. There's that Charlie we talked about, you know. Yeah, just really good. Last Man Standing is terrific. Believe in the Fight. Welcome to the Garden State, talking about, you know, being from Jersey. They're consistent. We talked about them. We've talked about them throughout, and they keep a consistency. And it almost seems like every time I'm like, man, can they do something better or something stronger? They seem to put out something as good, if not stronger, but different, but the same. And Wings of War is that. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, if we were going live album, I might go United Alive, but because we are staying consistent with studio albums, for 2019, I went with The Wings of War by Overkill. And then, like I said, on the film side, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So that concludes my favorite 50 over my first 50 years of life. I will have an episode on Friday because there are some really good movies that I've missed over the last second half of these films. But now I am working on new ideas, different ideas. I may do 1 or 2 a week going forward, not something every day. It's just a lot of work, along with running my business and such, and football starting back up. We can get back on the field in the next week with conditioning. So I'll be busy, but I'll make sure to try to do, maybe a Tuesday and Thursday or a Tuesday, Friday every week of some kind of episode of something. But we'll see how that goes going forward. Friday, like I said, another episode of What Did I Miss? I hope you've enjoyed all of these. I hope you are writing your list down. I hope you are watching these movies. I know some of you are. Continue to leave your comments and make sure if you've not subscribed to do so. I appreciate it. Thank you to all you guys, and I will see you Friday.